Hi everyone, welcome to the Engineers Ireland and the Engineers Without Border webinar. We're delighted to be collaborating with our friends in Engineers Without Borders today. The speaker coming up has a really super engaging webinar and really looking forward to listening to it, taking it all in, and definitely encourage you to get involved with their upcoming events for the Global Engineering Day and just getting behind them and supporting them. Just to say, this is one of many videos in the series. If you want to check any of them out, just check out Engineers Ireland on YouTube, and there's loads of relevant and recent content up there for student engineers and graduate engineers. And just to say as well, if you're graduating this year, don't forget to change your student membership to graduate membership. You get a serious discount of €700 during your first 4 years of your career. It's very simple to do. You can do it from your membership profile. You just log in, and there's a little option to become a full member. So if you have any questions about that, you can email me directly on the email address there. It's been an absolute delight to talk to you all briefly before we begin. I'm now handing you over to the main event, the Engineers Without Borders webinar. So thank you very much.
So, actually, maybe out of interest, feel free, guys, to shout out by unmuting yourselves or to put into the chat box. Are most of you guys familiar with us? Have you heard about us at Engineers Without Borders, or is this kind of like, are we very new to you guys? Just to know a bit about how much you know there in the audience. Or maybe just pop in the chat or unmute yourself, or yeah, see someone's chat there. So yeah, Rose, thanks. So it's Rose, apology. Yes, you're UCC chapter. Sorry for missing that connection. And Sinead, okay, yeah, familiar with Doctors Without Borders. So you mean there, yeah, absolutely. You'll see similar philosophy. UCD, yeah, very good. Ethan, cool to see people know some, yeah, UCD and UCC, good stuff. Okay, yeah, and earlier saying, yeah, we were highlighting your scope, very good, cool. Yeah, absolutely, and we partner with our proteins, so yeah, indeed, you can hear us through that. So great, yeah, that's brilliant to know. So you guys may be quite familiar with a lot of our work, but hopefully you'll still learn some interesting new things tonight and see about the opportunities for you guys. So sorry, now there we go. So yeah, to jump into, so our name, Engineers Without Borders, where really our philosophy is very much about the without borders and how we can all collaborate across disciplines. So really it's about, as we'll be talking about kind of throughout the presentation, about global collaboration to tackle our challenges, and that really only happens when we work across borders. In terms of kind of our mindset of how we come to things, and then practically in terms of collaboration. So that leads me nicely kind of to who I am, in that I'm not an engineer. I describe myself as the resident non-engineer at Engineers Without Borders. So I actually have a background in social sciences. I studied anthropology and community development. It was my master's over in Goldsmiths in London some years ago now. And actually wound up now reconnecting with Goldsmith's lecture, some interesting, coming full circle some years on. But yeah, my background is in social sciences, and I came to Engineers Without Borders as the program manager last year. Started in January with the organization. So 2 months of normal life before pandemic life began. And I was drawn to Engineers Without Borders exactly because of the Without Borders philosophy and how the organization brings together actors from academia, lecturers and students, like our students in the Engineers Without Borders student chapters. See some of you joining us tonight, which is great to have you with us. And then also professionals in companies and, innovating humanitarian professionals and NGOs, that we really were like a facilitator, bringing together all these actors to amplify our impact. And that's something that really appealed to me, having worked in the nonprofit sector for some years, and kind of seeing how NGOs can be quite isolated and quite siloed in the terms of the missions that NGOs can have. So I thought it was fantastic work that Engineers Without Borders does, and very unique. So something I was delighted to get involved in. So where Engineers Without Borders Ireland began, so as all great organisations often do begin, it was a bunch of motivated people who got together and wanted to change the world, wanted to make a positive impact. So it was a bunch of engineers got together in Dublin back in the day in 2012 and wanted to see how they could apply their engineering skills to solve global problems. So from there, the organisation has really gone from strength to strength over the last 10 years. And we now have an organisation where we have board of directors, 4 directors and a professional committee, dedicated volunteers all working with us, myself as programme manager, and then our student chapters all around the country. So in recent years, we have secured a lot of institutional funding, which has allowed us to do the work that we're doing. So initially with Irish Aid, which is an ongoing relationship with them. And then in more recent times, over the last 3 years, we've been funded by the EU's Development Education and Awareness Raising DEAR programme to run this Build Solid Ground programme here in Ireland, and that's been in collaboration with partners across the EU. So the aim of the Build Solid Ground programme is to get EU citizens involved in working towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, and in particular SDG 11, creating sustainable cities and communities. So that's just to give you a little bit of background to how EWB began. So I'm going to talk to you guys tonight about our Where There Is No Engineer design initiative, which you may or may not be familiar with, the kind of volunteering opportunities that there are with us, and the nature of the kind of overseas projects that we do that, again, you could get involved in supporting and get involved with. And then finally, events and workshops that we do exploring sustainable development and what that means in practice. So to jump right in, our Where There Is No Engineer competition. It is run by ourselves at Engineers Without Borders Ireland in collaboration with the Development Technology in the Community Research Group at TU Dublin. So we have been running it for the last 6 years in universities and through our EWB student chapters around the country. But it is very much, as you see there in the title, it's very much for students and professionals. So I know we have a lot of graduates with us tonight. Obviously maybe graduate, postgraduate students as well, and it's open to everyone. So you can certainly take part as a professional individual or as part of a professional team as well. So the competition is all about building community resilience and looking at the specific community and context that you are focusing on designing with the communities. So to give a bit of background to it in terms of, you know, the kind of thinking and I suppose the involvement that we hope to get from people that we're working with, this generation is faced with huge challenges. So as we all are experiencing at the moment, we're living through a global pandemic that we're, you know, in the middle of. This may not be the last pandemic that we're going to experience this century. And we're facing unprecedented humanitarian and global challenges in terms of natural disasters, accelerating global warming, biodiversity loss, and our entire planet entering into the most unstable period that we have experienced in millions of years. So this is the context of, you know, what we're operating in. And so we really need to think differently and act differently and very much get involved in tackling these global challenges. So this is really what Where There Is No Engineer is about. It's about global collaboration and, you know, taking part as individuals to make an impact. So yeah, we're moving towards 410 world, as we all know, by the end of the century of 4 degrees warming and 10 billion people, minimum global population. So how are we going to tackle these challenges together? So obviously that's, you know, looking at it at a very broad level. What we want to do with Where There Is No Engineer is bringing it down to a specific context and looking at the relationship between people, the environment, and technology. So that's really the heart of what Where There Is No Engineer is about. So this actually here, this image is taken in Nepal. So a river crossing there. So you can see the guys have a zip line and move across with their products. So that can look a bit mad to us, obviously, in here in Ireland, and something we're obviously totally unfamiliar with, but it's really smart design, and it works for the context, and it works for the people. It's easily operated and maintained by local people with local materials, and it basically works in the context. So that's what we want to see. The competition this year is focused on Kabwe, Zambia. So as you can see here in the picture, WTINE Ireland is the organization that we are working with. And Sables Nua is the school and drop-in centre where we're focused. So we initiated this partnership with the guys last year. So it actually came out of a volunteering program that we ran in Kabwe in 2019 that I'll touch on now in a few minutes. And we established this relationship with Sables Nua at the time. And so our design competition has been focused on this location since last year. So Kabwe is, just to give you a bit of information about the area, if you're not familiar, it is 2 hours north of the capital of Lusaka in Zambia. And the school and emergency shelter offers a unique opportunity to children in the area to be able to access free education and to have an opportunity for a better life. The children who come to the centre and the school are often coming from the streets where they have been addicted to drugs. And the guys give them an opportunity to get clean and stay clean, and then access education to be able to improve their life chances. So it's run by a Waterford couple who, Pat and Mary, who moved out there after retiring as teachers a couple of years ago. And the rest of the staff are all local Zambian people that they work with. So the ethos, kind of how we frame the competition, is very much about working with people, as I say, and working with communities. So we have a partnership with a youth organisation based in Lusaka, who we can set up sessions with for our participants to be able to talk to people to better understand what life on the ground is like and what the culture is like, and to kind of use this to frame your design thinking. And back in rows. And also it's really like, I suppose, the designs that you'd be working on here in Ireland, it's like stage one. And then when you actually would go out there, see, physical travel is paused at the moment with COVID, but in normal times when you would travel out there, if you were to win the competition, that's when you're really also getting feedback from the community and seeing, what's their feedback about how something would work and how could it be developed further, and kind of using that then as input for further prototyping. So then just to briefly mention our competition themes, this is all of them here: climate infrastructure, water and sanitation, community participatory health, energy, food security, and communications. So these are our focuses for the competition this year, if you guys are interested in getting involved, and I'll be delighted to talk to you afterwards, indeed, if you are. So focused on Zambia this year, there's a huge amount of challenges for the school and drop-in centre, but a huge amount of opportunities as well in terms of renewable energy, in terms of water and sanitation and infrastructure development for the centre and school. And so this just here to mention our image there is a lady in Nepal from a couple of years ago, one of our former winners. Olivia Holbrook designed a minstrel toolkit. So that's what the lady is demonstrating it there. The women in Nepal were sewing them, sewing the kits themselves. So these are all our universities involved at the moment. If you are a student on the call tonight and you'd love to get involved and you're not in one of these universities, obviously be delighted to chat to you about how you could bring it to your class group, or indeed if you are in one of these universities but you haven't been involved to date and would like to be, obviously be delighted to talk to you as well. And really this, I suppose, is one of our flagship programs, and just a fantastic opportunity for you, hopefully, to apply your engineering skills and everything that you mentioned there at the start of the session in terms of problem solving and development for the future in a really unique context, and opportunity for you to learn about a different country and communities there, and it just to develop as a professional and as an individual for it. So we hope if it's not something that you've heard about, we'd love for you to get involved, and I'd be happy, as I say, to talk more to you about it. So just to give you a few examples then of the kind of volunteering that we've had, we have 2 strands of volunteering. So obviously through our Where There Is No Engineer competition, and then through a partnership that we have with Habitat for Humanity Ireland. So these are some of our former winners. So as I just mentioned to you there a moment ago, that was our Tide, the Tide product designers a couple of years ago out in Nepal with the women's group there, designing the menstrual toolkits. On the right here, these were our winners who designed a biochar kiln, again, actually in Nepal with rural communities there. And below here was the Life Lid winners from a few years ago, who worked on developing. The Life Lid was basically a way to produce clean water through solution that they developed for the competition. And on the left here, these were our winners who went out to Kenya and who had an airdrop system they used to harness moisture from the air to produce clean water. So all of these guys went out for a week, and our hope is that in 2022 at the competition, people will be able to travel again on site to communities. Obviously for this year, we will be running internships for our winners online, but that still doesn't mean that you can't have a huge impact and be able to collaborate with international organizations. We ran an internship last year with one of our winners from 2019, who had an adaptable crutch kit design, and he was working with partners who operate in Nepal and around the world, Field Ready, humanitarian organization that we work with, to develop his design further. So if you're getting involved this year, there is still very much the opportunity to have an online internship and work with us in this way. So then our Zambia volunteering program that I mentioned there, that's with Habitat for Humanity, and we sent out this group in 2019. So the guys went out for a week and a half and were working on constructing homes in Kabwe, Zambia. And so this was them in action at the time, and this is the end result. So this is the social housing project that we worked with Habitat for Humanity on. And so as you can see, really nice environment, and yeah, the guys kind of do a lot of, they have like local growing as well in the community, and there's some opportunities for solar there. Guys had, each home had its own little small solar panels. So that's one of that program will be continuing, and hopefully, as I say, in 2022, it will be possible again to send volunteers out there. So then just to briefly give you a flavor of the kind of overseas projects that we have. On the left here, this was a project that we got involved with a couple of years ago in the Philippines, in Balayan there. And this is a social enterprise run by the community there, producing school bags, which are sold in Northern Ireland, actually. But the community and the enterprise were facing huge challenges in terms of power cuts in the building that they were working in. So we actually worked with Arab at the time on doing a feasibility study for renewable energy for biogas and solar. So to be able to enable the guys to be able to continue manufacturing and avoid loss of income. On the right here, then, this was a water monitoring program that we ran in northern Uganda a couple of years ago. So we got involved with the EPA, who kindly donated equipment for us to transport out there to support the guys to set up water monitoring program. And obviously huge challenges there on the water systems in terms of refugees coming from South Sudan. So that was a project we were involved with at the time. And then our COVID-19 response last year, the organization that I mentioned there a moment ago, Field Ready, the humanitarian organization, we partnered with the guys last year to run a rapid design network where we tested and reviewed PPE designs for use in Iraq and Bangladesh and Nepal, sharing them with our network to get feedback and see what were the best options to roll out. So we actually have developed a Hero Shield together with them, which we're now going to be manufactured and used in Bangladesh on the ground. So that's just to give you an idea of the kind of projects that we run and that you'd be able to get involved in. And finally, our events and workshops. So on the top here, this was actually our annual conference last year. So back in the days when we could all be in close proximity, less than 2 meters apart and without masks. So this was a workshop that was run by one of our guest speakers on the night, Andrew, actually from Field Ready. And he ran this as a workshop to explore power dynamics and decision-making in humanitarian aid. So if you're wondering why the guys are blindfolded, we had biscuits on the ground and there was teams for each of the guys blindfolded. And they were directing the guys to pick up the biscuits. And so it was all about how did that happen in decisions, and kind of looking then at broader perspective of international development and how processes work. So our annual conference actually is coming up in a couple of weeks in March. I'll be sharing the link with you guys later on. So we'd be delighted if you wanted to join us online this year. We have a couple of very interesting speakers. So yeah, I will share that information with you at the end. And then our conference, this is here in the bottom left, we are involved with a group of experts for nature-based solutions and participate in conferences every year with them. And are hoping actually to be involved in a European project with them in the coming years to look at integrating nature-based solutions in communities and cities. And then we run a lot of ideation workshops as well. So you guys might know Colin Keogh, quite a famous mechanical engineer who obviously does fantastic work in innovation. So he jointly hosted this workshop with us, this ideation workshop in Facebook a couple of years ago. So all of that is kind of given an overview of, you know, what we do and, you know, where we're coming from. I suppose it's putting it over to you guys then in terms of what impact you want to make as an engineer. Now, obviously, for those of you who are already involved with us in the student chapters, it's fantastic to have you with us, and we're delighted to have you collaborating to increase our impact. But if you haven't gotten involved with us, it's really considering the opportunities that are there for you, how you can apply your skills and make a difference. And so I'd encourage you, if you thought what I've talked about tonight is really interesting and you'd like to support us and to help shape our organization and grow it further, as we are, you know, a small and growing organization, we'd be delighted for you to consider becoming a member with us. So our student membership is 20 euros a year and professional membership is 40 euros a year. And it's about, as I say, that global collaboration and how we can tackle challenges together. If you're involved with us as a member, you'll be able to personally contribute to our projects, kind of help shape the kinds of projects that we get involved in, and obviously join a community of passionate engineers and some non-engineers obviously as well, like myself, thrown in the mix. And obviously broadening your network as well in terms of getting to know people working in very different fields, like Field Ready that I mentioned there is a really interesting and innovating humanitarian organization. So they're designing products for use on the ground in disaster areas, but they're very much focused on local network manufacturing. It's an opportunity for you to meet really interesting professionals like this. And in our upcoming annual conference, for instance, we have an expert speaker in degrowth. So, you know, just broadening your network to new professionals. And then finally, obviously, for our volunteer placements, you'd be getting priority as well access as a student or professional if you're involved with us as a member. And obviously, it's an opportunity for you to boost your employability as well, being involved with us, as you know, in terms of developing transferable skills and boosting your CV as well. So just to mention about those events coming up, I will share links with you maybe now in the chat box. We have well, firstly, before actually mentioning our annual conference, we have a fundraiser coming up actually in a couple of weeks' time on the 4th of March, which you may have heard is now also World Engineering Day for Sustainable Development. So it's the second annual day designated by UNESCO last year. And we will be running our first annual, hopefully annual fundraiser on the day, where we're asking people to get involved by sharing one of the Sustainable Development Goals or more, and with an image of what that goal represents to you, and making that your Zoom background in all meetings or classes that you might be in on the 4th of March, and making a donation to Engineers Without Borders Ireland. So I will share the link with you now in a moment in the chat box for that, and you can just to find out more, but we'd be really delighted if you wanted to get involved and to spread the word with your networks. And then our annual conference, I'll say, is on the 4th of March. It will be 6 p.m. And we're going to have guest speakers Riccardo Mastini, who's an expert in degrowth, and Pradita Pradhan is the program manager for Field Ready in Nepal. So talking about the work going on in the ground there. So I will maybe very briefly just pop out to get those links to share with you. So this is our fundraiser. And apologies now.